happened, and the winning candidate won with a vote margin of 94%. And where does that even leave the opposition? And this is the question we are asking this morning, that are we honest when it comes to democracy in Africa? Mr. Philip Langdon, I start with you.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to my colleagues here. Yes, I mean, the statistics that you have just given, Benin 94%, it sounds very unrealistic. I mean, you can't imagine that only 6% of the electorate will be against or will not want to vote for. So that alone suggests some skewing of the results or something. Yeah. But if you look at it, the turnout in that particular election was about 53 or 54%. Also, there are elections, although the observers, ECOWAS observers and other observers, they gave it a clean bill. The elections were free and fair and all that. But we know that in many of these countries, what tends to happen is that the ruling party monopolizes the media. They have all kinds of ways of stifling alternate views and voices. So what the people are used to hearing is just the ruling party. So Benin wasn't like that before, but we've seen that in the recent past it's becoming a bit more like that. So when it happens this way, it's not too surprising. Also, the main organized opposition, they tried to, they led a boycott actually. So that probably accounts for the 54%, and then so leaving the only other opposition, which contested the ruling party. So their leader, Paul Hukbe or something, he conceded, the election, even before the final results were out, to give the impression that, so if you take the optics and the statistics, it looks nice. They went for election, they've been given a clean bill, free and fair, there was no intimidation, no arrest, nothing, everything went on, and then the main opponent in that election, by the time about 90% of the results had come out, he came out and said, taking the trend, I concede. And the ruling party too accepted his concession. And it was all nice. But there are undercurrents. A few months ago, there was an attempted coup. Yeah. And when that coup came, it threatened a certain level of popularity. But for that's what everybody believes, that but for the intervention of the Nigerian Air Force, that coup may have been successful, And for the brief period that coup had appeared to have succeeded, it seems to have gotten a lot of popularity. But anyway, that was 4 months ago. They've had elections. The elections went well. Everything went okay. And when it came to the swearing in, saw the turnout. The people everything looks nice. You see, I just hope that it was not too orchestrated. Because at the end of the day, they're not fooling anybody. So I just hope that this is a genuine and even listen to the acceptance speech of the president at his swearing in. For the first time, many of these African leaders of some of these African countries who take their winning for granted. They just go there, it's like, I won, they swear him in and that's it. But in this case, you hear him promising the people that I'm going to make sure I give you jobs. I'm going to make sure there's development. I'm going to make sure we take care of your health. It wasn't so much like that before. And like the others who won the elections, Denis Sassou Nguesso of Congo and all of them, you know. It's the same trend, you know. They win, I mean, they're expected to win. They win massively. They take the electorate for granted. They don't owe them any explanations.
He's serving his 5th term.
5th term.
Yeah.
5th term. You know. So, and then in Djibouti,
yes,
Omar, he's going for his 6th term.
6th term, yeah.
The case of Djibouti, they are less than 1 million. You know, and they find themselves in a comfortable lead because
since 1999.
Yeah. And there isn't any serious opposition. It's that the opposition themselves, they are already so comfortable that they are not seriously fighting the president. And they are strategically playing the powers. Djibouti has foreign military, what do you call it, bases. The only country in Africa where there's a permanent United States military base. China has a base there. Italy has a base, France, even Japan. So, yes, they've had successful elections. On the face of it, everything looks good. But the kind of democracy that the people of Africa expect and are looking forward to and deserve, whether these leaders will give it to them is the issue. In the case of Uganda and Yoweri Museveni, frankly, I don't even want to go there. I mean, it is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Museveni, you know, take his cabinet, his vice president. I mean, you know, you people should be bowing out. Meanwhile, he's virtually ordained his son to succeed him. No, that's not right. You see, that's not right. I mean, we expect to see freer elections, freer democratic space where people can criticize effectively and, you know, state their case, put the government on their toes. The government must be responsive and accountable to the people. How many of these governments, they don't care much about their people. They do what they like. You know, Africa is moving away from that. And I believe that even the presence of progressive governments, like we are seeing in Burkina Faso and all that, is having an effect. Because like I'm saying, the kind of promises we're hearing in Benin, are things we're not used to. They just take everybody for granted. But for now, you see that they're beginning to sit up. So I just hope that this is just a first step. You know, it's a step. Yes. It reminds me of when Ghana went from non-constitutional rule to constitutional rule. Yes. Many of us were fighting the government at the time. But at least we're happy with the fact that now we're doing the same government, but under a constitutional dispensation.
But this seems to be more of a manipulated.
You see, that's what I'm saying.
Manipulation of the constitutional limits in a very controversial way.
Yes. You see, that's what I'm saying. For the optics, it all appears nice and good.
But what will really be the spirit of democracy? Because then it's not only about free and fair elections.
Exactly. So I think that, you see, at least it's a first step.
Elections where one person wins 90%.
It is a first step
of the votes.
That alone tells you that this is not real.
Yeah.
But we are seeing signs that things are changing. That is hope. That is hopeful. But some time back, there was no way that this was never going to change. It was perpetuated. But now, the cracks are emerging, and you see changes and differences. You see, which I believe in time will make a difference. Because everybody knows that in Benin, the main opposition didn't take part. It is for the main opposition now to make their case and let people appreciate that, no, yes, they didn't take part, but they have a voice that the people listen to. And that voice alone should keep the government on its toes. You see, because even the way the government is behaving now shows that they are not going to take them for granted like before. So yes, the situation is not the best, but the way things are going, we can only be hopeful that things will change for the better. Like I'm saying, I'm bringing it back to the same Ghana situation. In 1992, right, when we went from non-constitutional rule to constitutional rule, same head of state, because it was under the constitution, there were changes. And it set off a process of improvement. The situation then is different from the situation now. Our democracy has gone deeper and become more effective. You see, so like I'm saying, yes, it might not be the best. The signs are there to show that it is not what we expect. But I'm just hopeful that with the pressure of other African countries, and the way things are going, there will be a definite improvement.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Philip Langdon.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael Niaboy, Anan.
Yes. let me greet my seniors here. It's been a while. I think after the 2024 elections we haven't met.
You're right.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Anyway, I greet the viewers and those listening on radio as well. Look, I would say that if given the African development in terms of politics, democracy, whatever, has not been intervened by the Western people, we would have been a lot ahead. If our natural self has been allowed to develop on its own, probably we wouldn't have chosen democracy. Probably. You go to any African country and you look at their cultural settings and everything, we may not have ended up with democracy. We could have kind of factioned out something unique to ourselves that will really work. I'm not saying that democracy is not good for us. It is. But I think that we have cultural challenges, and sometimes I think that especially the Francophones have a lot of issues to do with democracy, as to why that is the situation. I think somebody needs to study. We have seen what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. We've seen north of Burkina Faso, Malians and all that. We've seen all this, the Cameroonians, and I'm not saying it has not happened to the Anglophones as well. It has, but it's a bit okay on that level. But when it comes to the Francophone, it's a lot escalated. What happened in Benin, clearly for me, it's not an elections. You know, I mean, and how the structure has been set, that you need to gain a certain votes in parliament before you can see yourself onto the ballot. It's a challenge. It's not an open space for everybody to go in there. But that is how they have structured their constitution and all that. And so you cannot fault anyone for it. If you look at the president who is being succeeded by his finance minister, basically, it's more like his proxy, you know. It's like he's the same person still there, and these things happens because of the way power is handled here in Africa. We pretend as if we have separate arms of government and one checks the other, when in real effect what they do is only to complement each other. There is no check and balances, as we always wish to say that, Parliament is a check on the executive and the judiciary is there, and the fourth estate are always in the pocket of the executives and all that. So in the long run, we are back to zero. We don't practice true democracy as we see on paper. When it comes to Uganda, it's a different situation. I agree that what is going on there is not again the best, but there is a background to that, where the Buganda people, basically their name, just the B was taken off and it became Uganda. They are like the majority. And Museveni is not from that tribe. But he's the only person who has protected that tribe. And this is the reason why he has a lot of support. He wouldn't have lasted this long if not for that. And I think most of the presidents that came took, it's actually a kingdom, the Buganda kingdom. They took the powers, the land, their chieftaincy, everything away from them. So it has taken Museveni to give them back part of their land. It's like they own part of the land, as much as their kingdom is also restored. They are free to actually have their king and all that. And these Bugandans feels that if power changes hands to somebody else, apart from how they believe that, I don't know, to anybody else, any tribe, they will be found wanting.
Okay.
And so he's protecting them and they are protecting him. And it will shock you. They are very intelligent people. Having discussions with the young, very energetic, and they will tell you that they will not risk it. They will not risk it to go and bring somebody else whom they will not know how is going to handle them. So that's what I'm saying, that if given that we were not interrupted in Africa by these Europeans who had no business being here in the first place, probably most of us will not end up with this kind of democracy. We may have something else that will really work for us. When you talk of those who have gone for 6 terms, 5 terms, and all that.
We actually have some examples. In Congo, there's a re-election. The Denis Sassou, he's been re-elected and sworn in for the 5th term. The finance minister who just won the Benin elections as well succeeds the predecessor. Ismail Omar Guelleh of Djibouti has been in office since May 8, 1999.
Yeah. Museveni since 86.
Museveni, yes, since 86. And also Alassane Ouattara, our neighbor, has also been in government or been in office since December 4, 2010.
Alassane Ouattara is a perfect example of well, let me keep it. This is somebody who found himself some time back in opposition, and you saw the level of hate that he brought to the one who was in power, and calling for all sort of things to be done and all that, and he got the opportunity, and see what he's doing there. It's like you don't know whether we should really say that probably that democracy won't work for the Francophones. Seriously, I think for me, I don't see why with the Francophones it always happened. Look, he's one person who should have been a perfect president. We saw what happened before he got onto the seat. So I thought it was, and look at his background. Look at his background. Look at where he had worked and all that. Look at the examples from that angle. And you come in there and you have messed up the country further. Democratically, you've taken the country back. And you see, we can be good brothers who don't see any evil. And that is also another worry. That, look, nobody speaks against any of these things. It's like, well, it's your business, so just handle it.
Yeah, I was actually going to go there in terms of what the AU and even ECOWAS has to say when it comes to these kind of situations.
I don't think Ghanaians should pay any ECOWAS dues when they are importing goods and all that into this country.
Tell us why.
It is a useless thing. For now, it is a useless thing. Look at what is happening. Look, today, if there is a challenge like we have had in Burkina Faso, it affects us. Ivory Coast, you saw the number of businesses and people that troop into this country and they had to depend on the utilities that it's not even sufficient for us. Right. You know, look at just Togo. We are bounded by these francophones. Then look at Benin. Look at all this. If the coup has been successful, you think they will dash down to Togo? They will just cross Togo and come to Ghana. You know, and so we cannot be brothers and see no evil when these things are going on. I think some of them, we should be able to call them out. You know, I don't see why this Ivorian president is still on the seat. If it is not for the so-called their godfathers in Paris sitting there and manipulating them. But I think that, you see, we should look at the example of Nkrumah. Nkrumah engineered that some of these countries would have their own independence and manage their own affairs. We cannot say that it's outdated or outmoded or not necessary. It is very ripe now that we, probably Ghana, Nigeria, should be in West Africa, the big brothers, to ensure that some of these things are checkmate. It will affect us the most. And people will not run that easily to Nigeria, and we all know why. But here, people will run here easily. And already we have porous borders that are manned and all that. And so people get in here, and you don't know what they even bring in here. I'll tell you, most of the ammunitions that gets into Ghana comes from the Burkina side and we all know why. We all know why. And so we cannot sit and look on to such things and not even say anything. They go to the ECOWAS summit, and I don't know what they go and say there. I don't know what they do there. And they all go and drink the tea, and then they come back. You are drinking tea with somebody who is a complete dictator.
Tyrant.
A tyrant, for that matter. Somebody who has captured power and is not letting it go. He will not give anybody the space.
But you just gave us a background story, and it seems to me to be a justification for why someone should be in power for that long. I mean, even if the people have chosen that this person should be in power to, so to speak, protect us, does that restrict the, I mean, should that be an impediment to another who could equally develop the country from coming into office? Or
look, you see, it is not a justification. I'm only saying this is kind of a cultural background of what is happening there. Now, for Uganda, you cannot say, and you cannot actually tell me that they wouldn't have gotten somebody better than Museveni if they have kept changing and all that. They are very intelligent people when you deal with them. Very, very intelligent. So the question here is, don't you yourself think that you would have to give space to others? For me, I think that is you live in an organization, you set it up, you did everything, you brought the people in, you trained them. At a point, you want to step away, you want to step aside and give others the opportunity to also see what they can be able to do. And I think that is how, and these our African leaders should probably go with us. Also, it is a constitutional thing. If the constitution says that you can go any number of steps, if people, it is so easy for a president to just wake up one day and change the constitution and all that. We have been trying to amend our constitution, but you could see the difficulty. You know, in other places, I don't think it's that difficult. They go in there, and within some few gymnastic, they are able to change the constitution to suit their whims and caprices. And that is where the issue is. And I think we should be able to do something as a corporate Africa and say that, look, when you get in there, you cannot do this. This should be for everybody. You can't go beyond 2 terms, and it should be for everybody. We should sign on to it. We are easy, and it's so okay for us to go and sign on to all sort of charters that we don't even understand. And I have never seen any African charter that is being signed on to by African leaders to say that, look, I cannot stay in power for this long. Worst case scenario, 3 terms, I should be out. Because if given that 3 terms is about 15 years, let's assume, for good 15 years, somebody would have given birth, then the child would have been 15 years. You know, so clearly something needs to be done, and I think it should be at the AU or the ECOWAS. And if this AU and ECOWAS is not working, probably we should get out of it. It's always a pain if you have to pay ECOWAS levies. For what?
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Michael Ni Yavoy Annan. Honorable Adumaku Kisi.
Africa unite. First of all, I think that I'm of the school of thought that change from time to time inures the benefit of the people. And this idea of one person staying on for more than 10 years, I think, is troubling. And more importantly, I based on what has occurred, my worry is the fact that there was a boycott, which means that a good chunk of people representing the country abstained. And if it's, as it is, 53% of the electorate, that out of that we got 94, then literally it was more of an acclamation, more so than an election. And that begs the question of the, as it is, the integrity, the political clout of whoever has won. If you want to do very serious politics, it is out of a contest that you get confidence, that people then can say that, oh, there was a duke out and then the best man won. So this literally would be like a troubled electioneering result. And for that reason, quite frankly, if the African Union wants to talk about it, the confidence that they should have in this presidency shouldn't be the same as a Ghanaian election where things went heavily in terms of close to what we expect for elections. So I think that both of them are right about the Anglo countries and how our politics is largely different from the Francophone ones. And maybe that is another whole school of thought, that the French way of doing politics is different from the British way of doing politics. And if we cannot appreciate the Francophone style, we who did the Commonwealth may be arguing about something that the French folks are comfortable with. So maybe the English democracy is different from the French democracy. And for that matter, the lens that we are using is maybe should be looked at. But overall, I pray that institutions in these countries will develop, and that basic rights of the people will not be trampled over, and that their health care, as proposed by the president who made the claim during his inauguration, will be taken serious. But then again, let me also admit that somehow some of the arrangements in some of these francophone countries are so difficult to change, in the sense that they've bequeathed some of their capabilities and rights to the French. If you go to some of our neighboring countries, it almost appears that there's a quote-unquote a stooge as a president, and France is managing the country. So their healthcare medications are all coming from France. You know, you can't import anything other than the drugs that the French bring you. So there are some nuances that even begs the question, are they even independent? You get my point? Yeah, I mean, for me, it almost appears like a facade or a mirage. So the French still govern them, and then they have these characters who are born of Africa but standing necessarily for the French. So I mean, maybe Comrade would educate me a little bit better, because for me, the way I see it from my tyrant eye, and let me say that because I'm one of those tyrants, I think, even within my own circles, that if you study the terrain carefully, it is almost as if the control of the country is about maybe 60% French, and then 40% the local people who are appearing to be doing something for the country, but they take orders from France. And France now, Mukrano, in the scheme of things, when the world talks, in all honesty, the French is having struggles in their own country with regards to their socialist approach. And we're not talking about the Cuban socialist approach. The French socialist approach is like to maintain certain classes. You know, so, and it should be accepted. You know, the class system is accepted. Those who have not, you will give you all of these things. Rent is paid for, blah, 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 just to survive. So it begs many, many questions. And I will pronounce that this is not democracy. This is not what we know as democracy,
right,
to begin with. And I think that if I should borrow from Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, they haven't truly been liberated. This is not the independence that Ghana got, where we broke off and were not subjects to the Queen. These are countries where they are still subject to France. And that is why we might say that the Burkina Faso scenario is a true independence, where he's actually severed ties. And rumor has it that it's a Russian style now. And that signifies a breakaway from the oligarchs that were running the show. So in my small summary, I think that has the Francophone countries really gotten independence? Maybe not. You know, we've been lied to. I think that I've been lied to. You know, they haven't gotten that Kwame Nkrumah independence. And that is why we're seeing what we are seeing, where literally even the paracetamol in most of these Francophone countries have to come from France, which I think is a joke. So I would end on that note, that most of the French countries, what they are going through is semi-independence. Yes. All right.
Right, thank you very much, Honorable Adumaku Kisi. Comrade Pratt.
Well, a few years ago, I had the privilege of attending the non-aligned heads of states meeting in Tehran, Iran. We're sitting in this hall when I saw an African head of state virtually carried by his assistants to his seat. And I was watching closely. Within 2 minutes of his sitting down, he was actually snoring. He was gone. You know, I felt so embarrassed, especially because this African leader is one of the icons of the national liberation struggle in Africa. So I walked up to the foreign minister of that country and I said to him, why do you do this to the old man? You know. And he looks at me and he says that, well, he's all we've got. That's one case. There's a video of an African head of state who is actually sitting in a conference. And he turns to his aides and he poses the question, where are we? What are we doing here? Yes, sir. This is an African head of state who has been flown from his country to participate in an international conference. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what the conference is about, and so on. That's another scenario. Now, I think it's important for us to define politics. What is politics? I think the best definition would be production for the satisfaction, production and distribution for the satisfaction of the needs and aspirations of people. Okay, that's what politics is. It cannot be anything else. It's about what resources we have, how we utilize those resources, manage those resources to resolve the concrete problems that confront us. So elections must lead to outcomes which enables us to perform these functions properly, to satisfy the needs and aspirations of our people. Anything short of this is problematic. You understand? So that's the context within which we have to discuss this topic of African elections. Now again, and I'm sure all of you do know, that La Côte d'Ivoire actually elected a president who was a citizen of another country. They elected Félix Houphouët-Boigny as president of La Côte d'Ivoire, who was not just a citizen of France, but was a member of parliament in France. So La Côte d'Ivoire's president was attending sessions of the French parliament as an MP. That's problematic. Okay. Now, what is it that we're talking about? Studies have suggested that in Ghana, we are not talking about Benin, we are not talking about La Côte d'Ivoire, we are talking specifically about Ghana. Now, that to become president of Ghana, you need to mobilize a minimum of $100 million. Immediately, almost the whole population is excluded from participation. Okay? Now, if you have a system like this, where you need to mobilize so much money to become president, what you're actually doing, whether you organize elections or you come by coup d'etat or whatever, what it actually implies is that foreign interest will control the country, and that the country will not be able to engage in production for the satisfaction of the needs and aspirations of its people. Okay. Now, recently, there has been some argument in Ghana. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that argument about whether or not to give President John Dramani Mahama a third term. And those who say that he should be given a third term are arguing that he's done so very well that it will be unconscionable to allow him to go when he's really doing well. The economy is doing well. You know, things have changed dramatically in the last 14, 15 months or so. That is the argument. Now, I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, are we saying that a country of 35 million people can produce only one leader? That only one person is capable of resolving the economic, social, and other problems that confront our people? What if he dies tomorrow? What if he becomes incapacitated? In any case, one of the roles of leadership, of leaders, is to groom others to continue with their vision and so on. And indeed, in a country of 35 million people, you cannot be governed by the vision of only one person. Immediately, there's a problem, questions about, democracy. As if democracy is the will of the people, of 35 million people, and so on, how come that only one person's vision drives, the effort and so on? So these are some of the fundamental questions that we need, to ask and to answer in this discussion about African elections. Now, I was listening to my brother, my very good brother, Dr. Adumaku Kisi. And he begins to discuss British versus French politics and what options may be available to the African people. Unfortunately, none of those options are workable in Africa, can't be workable in Africa. I mean, systems of government come with developments. Our history is important and so on. And if you look at our history, it is clear that the adoption of any of the Western models can only lead us to total disaster. Now let me explain. You see, the Western countries as they are today, they appear to be prosperous, some say they are developed and so on. All of that was made possible through the exploitation of others. The vicious and brutal exploitation of others. Indeed, the transatlantic slave trade provided the accumulation of surpluses which enabled them to reach the current levels they have reached. In addition to that, classical colonialism gave them unfettered access and control over our resources. So we had a situation where our resources were not exploited for the benefit of our people. They were exploited to build the Western capitalist empires. Okay? And I've always said, for example, that if you look at the railway system in Ghana, for example, it tells the story adequately. All the railway lines start from areas of concentration of wealth and end up in the ports. They start from the bauxite producing areas, the gold extraction areas, the diamond producing areas, timber, and so on, and end up in the ports. So that model, which was based on extraction, extraction, is not a model we can follow. Because I'm saying that, look, if you have to follow the examples of the Western capitalist states and so on, then we have to capture others to come and work for us for 300 years without pay or charge, in order to accumulate the surpluses that they accumulated to build their societies on. Then we have to colonize others so that we can control their resources and steal those resources to maintain our development. Now, those options are simply not available to us. So when we are talking about the democratic experiment in Africa and so on, we need to design new models of governance and so on, which will be based almost entirely on collective self-reliance of the African people. A system in which, as was stated by the 1945 Pan-African Congress, a system in which we will owe our own resources and exploit these resources for our benefit. So the Western model is not available to us. Now, even if it were available to us, even if we were to assume that it is possible to capture others as slaves, to colonize others and so on, where will our morality be? You understand? So that is completely closed to us. Now, I'm getting increasingly worried about elections in Africa because most of the outcomes have not been in the interest of the people. Most of the outcomes have been beneficial to foreign interests which are detrimental to the African people. One, you can see elections as a manifestation of class context or class struggle. Okay? You can see it within that context. Now, if you see elections as a manifestation of class struggle or class contest, it would seem to suggest that the working class has not been winning elections in Africa. And if the working class has not been winning elections in Africa, who has been winning elections? The bourgeoisie, which is tied to foreign interests and so on, has been winning elections. How is that possible? Why has that become the norm in Africa? And that has become the norm in Africa because of the electoral systems we have built, which have been completely monetized. Poor people have no role to play in this electoral system. The only role poor people have to play in this electoral system is to wake up at dawn and go and put a piece of paper in the ballot box and go back home. You understand?
Kill with stones.
They have no access to the media. They are not involved in the shaping of messages and so on. Because this system is built to favor the elite in our society, the money bags in our society. This is not a system which is built to ensure mass participation in decision making and so on. So that is a fault. Now you have all of these African leaders who have formed various clubs, including ECOWAS and African Union. I mean, these unions have become clubs of heads of states. The people cannot be found there. The interests of the people cannot be identified in these clubs. And these club of leaders are just focused on protecting themselves against their populations. Okay. So in La Côte d'Ivoire, for example, Alassane Ouattara can mess up with the national constitution. He can change his term of office, can do anything to win elections. As soon as the results are declared, the president of Ghana, the president of Nigeria, all of them, they will go to Abidjan to endorse him. They will go to his inauguration and endorse him. You understand? So it's a club of leaders who are protecting their hold on power rather than aspiring for genuine democracy, which guarantees mass participation in decision making and the enforcement of decision making and so on. That's the problem. I mean, you're talking about Benin elections, and the statistics tell a story. I mean, we are told that maximum 54% of the population elected qualified voters actually voted, 54%. Okay? That should be a worry. Of course, it is true that in the West, sometimes less than that votes. But that is why we should not be copying the Western system. You understand? But 54% vote. At the end of it, 94 of the 54% vote for this president. There's a problem with this election. Clear problem with this election. And yet, Massa, I bet you, he will be inaugurated very soon. That young man will soon be inaugurated as the newly elected president of Benin. And you will see the African leaders who will fly private jets and wear expensive Western design suits to go and sing his adulation and to endorse, you know, his election. Why? We were all very deeply worried about Alassane Ouattara and how he was misbehaving in La Côte d'Ivoire. You saw the African leaders who went to his inauguration to go and endorse him. Interestingly, these same African leaders will condemn Burkina Faso, they will condemn the junta in Niger, and condemn the junta in Mali as undemocratic. In any case, the facts are that none of these African leaders enjoys the popularity that these so-called cool leaders enjoy in their countries. I'm sure. You know, I was speaking to a presidential candidate, you know, in Zambia. And this presidential candidate actually told me that he wanted access to Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. And I said, why? And he said, look, if I manage to get to Ibrahim Traoré and it's publicized and a photograph with him hits my country, it is half of the job done. You understand? So the African leaders themselves know the popularity of these leaders. And I can bet that many African leaders in their own countries, not in Burkina Faso, if they were to contest elections with Ibrahim Traoré would beat them hands down. Okay? So how did they mount how do they say, the high horse? How did they mount the high horse? If election is about winning the popular vote and so on, none of them can beat these coup leaders even in their own countries. And I think it's important that when we discuss African elections and so on, we should do that. Now, the other thing for me which is important is that elections or governance, why? Must have predictable outcomes. You understand? Some say that elections have consequences and so on. Yes, governance has consequences. We all know, for example, that in Niger, before the coup d'etat in Niger, Niger was rated as the poorest or one of the 3 poorest countries in the world. 2 years after the coup, Niger became the fastest growing economy, not in West Africa, but in the world. What happened? So I think that those who study governance, those who want to lecture us about governance and so on, should begin to find out how come that in a space of 2 years, the poorest country in the world has an economy which is the fastest growing in the world. Something must have happened. What is it that has happened? Shouldn't we be copying it? Something has happened. Ultimately, elections, democracy, whatever it is, ought to be about the people's will. It ought to be about the realization of the aspirations of the people. That is the test. The test is not whether or not the leader is in khaki or the leader is in a Parisian suit. That is not the test. The test is the practical consequences of the practices that we call democratic or otherwise. That is the test. In any case, all of these countries, including their so-called advanced capitalist states and so on, which say that they are insisting on the practice of democracy in Africa, look at their records. Look at their records. These are the same countries which came together to topple the government of Patrice Lumumba in 1960 or 1961, after he had been overwhelmingly elected by the people of the Congo as their prime minister. They killed him. And they killed him because they wanted to control Congo's uranium. Okay? Have they got any right to be lecturing us about democracy when they conduct themselves in this way? If you read the declassified documents of the Central Intelligence Agency of the US, it is clear why the Nkrumah government was toppled. Okay? They toppled the government of Salvador Allende in Chile. They tried more than 300 times to assassinate Fidel Castro and so on. Are these democratic practices? Certainly not. You understand? So I insist that in discussing African elections and democracy and so on, we ought to situate that within a context for power which is directly related to production and distribution for the satisfaction of the needs and aspirations of our people. That's the only way we can make a correct judgment.
Right. Thank you very much, Comrade Chrissy Pratt. Honorable Adumaku Kisi, I hope you have been lectured because you indicated that you hope that.
And I like the response.
We
need to do something tailored for our African culture and history. And that's why sometimes I think that we may need longer terms or single long terms in Africa, so that if you have just 6 years single term, if you can't crack and make it happen,
that's it.
You're done. So these are some of the thoughts we need to be entertaining, and I think that, in all honesty, John Dramani Mahama has the opportunity to maybe increase the term, not necessarily the number of terms, and he could do it to impact the next generations, not his tenure, because people will complain. But maybe 5-year or 6-year terms. And then there are other institutions in this country that I think should overlap. So that if, for instance, the electoral commissioner is supposed to work for only a 6-year term,
that's it.
Then a different government will come and put in somebody, So these are some of the things we should be thinking of as a nation to strengthen the various institutions, especially Parliament and the judiciary.
Right. Thank you very much. Right, Mr. Philip Longdon.
One thing that was a locally, indigenously generated institution from the African Union was the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, where African leaders would review themselves as to how they're governing. And when it started, it was doing well. In fact, President Kufuor surrendered himself as the first African leader, and he publicized the recommendations that were made to him, and he followed them. One of them was reducing the size of his government. So he had to actually let go of some of his ministers, some of whom never forgave him. But, it was a genuine effort to try and do what everybody expected was right. And I think institutions like that, it even helps. Because sometimes the leader is torn between popular political decisions as against the real good decisions that you need to take for the country. But unfortunately, African Peer Review Mechanism, we haven't heard about it over the last so many years. So I just hope that when President Mahama assumes leadership of AU, these are some of the things that he should begin to put back in place. That will put African countries, African leaders, because if peer review is reviewing these leaders we are talking about today, I mean, even if they don't accept what they say,
leaders who don't even know where they are, and those of within moments of sitting.
In fact, if you want to visit a particular president, we've talked about him. They will tell you that even if he's sleeping, don't assume he's sleeping.
Which president is that?
Oh, you can only imagine.
We didn't talk about him. Am I missing something?
And I also
did you mention him?
Yeah, I mentioned him.
Oh, I'll just connect the dots then.
The most troubling thought is the fact that when there are even meetings about Africa, they have to go to Europe. It's one of the sickening things for me. If it's about Africa, why can't the Europeans come
and do you know how they jostle for positions when they are standing by this European?
It's not all of them.
No, Rwanda will not do that.
Yes. So let us not brand all African leaders as though they are.
We are looking at a majority.
And I like the fact that they sympathize with
the African leaders who are standing up.
Trump.
Yeah, and we must commend them. Not just talk about African leaders as though they are all. No.
And then the narrative. I mean, look at Gaddafi's narrative. Unfortunately, that narrative needs to be looked at and rebranded and rebroadcasted. Because certainly now it's becoming more evident that some of these people that were bastardized were largely because of their unwillingness to kowtow to Western pressures. So these are sort of things that I think,
Right, it's been insightful so far. If you just joined, this is Alhaji&Alhaji, Ghana's most sought after weekend political talk show. I'm sitting in for Senna. I'm AGYEKUM. But our viewers also have got something to say. This message is coming through, says, "Good morning, OHEMAA. I beg to differ from Ms. Akwesi Pratt's comments that one person's vision cannot control a country when referring to a section of Ghanaians calling for another term be given to President Mahama. I beg to differ because President Nkrumah's vision built Ghana. I do not mean by this text that President Mahama should be given another term. David from Russia, Accra.
Just a moment.
Right.
Yes, Nkrumah was the leader of Ghana, and under him, a vision emerged. But that was not the personal vision of Nkrumah. It's a misreading of history or some historical illiteracy which can lead to that conclusion. Because everything Nkrumah did was captured in the final resolution of the 5th Pan-African Congress in Manchester. If you go there, the program for socialist construction, the program for self-reliance and so on, all of that.
Malcolm X.
So all of them, W.E. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Marconi, and others, were instrumental in shaping that vision.
Yeah.
You understand?
Even just who died recently.
Well, Jomo Kenyatta and all of them, they met in Manchester in 1945 and shaped the vision. And that is why on winning election, Nkrumah found it necessary to bring all of these giants back to Ghana. They stayed in Accra to help continuously shape the vision and to implement it. It was not a one-man vision. And in fact, the portrayal of Nkrumah as a dictator, somebody who decided everything and so on, is not even in the interest of Nkrumah and his legacy.
Right, thank you. I think
Exactly.
meaning, explanation has been brought to your concern and what you depart from in terms of the submission of Comrade Kwesi Pratt. But this message also is coming through, says that Africa needs a leader who understands our state, the politics of the world, power and survival concerning the things that sustain us. If we have embraced democracy, shouldn't we treat it like Nkrumah said, that whatever is thrown at us, we will examine it, and if it does not favor our cause, we shall reject it. I heard Ghana's constitution is hybrid of the United States and that of the British. Then we should have been better long ago for other African countries to follow our footsteps like that of our independence. What are the things holding us back, making our own wishes and manipulation difficult? We must address it seriously. Says, please, after reading the message, madam, tell Mr. Pratt to define politics again. Comrade, they want to understand your definition for politics. But I think when you go to Facebook, we're live on there, and we're also interactive on all our socials. Please get the time. If you're not behind your TV set, of course, you can just take your phone and, you know, tap on your Facebook, we're live. You can just go a few minutes back and you get the definition again. We need it, the government needs it. Right, thank you so much. More messages coming through. Says that good morning to you, OHEMAA, and your panelists. This is coming from Vision, Tamale Central. For me, I think Africa still needs to sit up when it comes to elections in the continent. Free and fair elections in Africa are questionable, and this is because leadership in Africa appears to betray the people in office. So out of fear that they might be kicked out of power, they manipulate offices like the EC, the judiciary, and state securities to keep power, even though the people vote, the people speak change. So I think we need a lot of amendments that makes it difficult for the people's vote to be overturned and the ruling government to be overturned, and that is the EC, the Chief Justice, and the leadership of our security services should not be appointed by the ruling government, but by the people themselves. Send my regards to Professor Ali Duseidu, MP, Tamale Central. Thank you for your messages. I think we'll have to proceed to our next topic for discussion, which has to do with government intervening and cushioning consumers for petroleum prices. And Graphic Online has recorded that the the price for crude oil has shifted from $63 to $100, and this is as a result of the geopolitical distractions. And government is saying that they're going to come through with a 2 cedis cushion for diesel and 0.3 Ghana cedis for petrol. We're looking at it in the light of sustainability, given how volatile the global prices are now, and the unpredictability of the market and stability in its entirety. Let me start from Mr. Michael Ni Yaboy Anan, since he's in government. Since he's in government. Yeah, so you by extension you are.
So he's
proximity wise. Yes.
Well, I think we are all aware of the current challenges and what is bringing all this up. I say this is going to be a transitional inflation. I mean, you cannot do away with it, but it's due to de-escalate with time if things goes right between the Iranians and the U.S.-Israel war. And so for a government, your responsibility is to find out, first and foremost, what is this transitional inflation is going to affect, and try to mitigate the effects. In fact, fuel happens to be one of the major components of production in our country. In fact, our energy sector depends on it. The dependence on fuel has become quite huge compared to the hydro, solar, and what have you. And for transport purposes, it is just recent that we are kind of moving towards the electric, the EVs and all that. And so, yes, it is right and appropriate to look at the numbers and say that this is something we can do away with. We would have to look at the opportunity costs if it is worth it, because certainly that affects our revenues. The 2 cities or so that has been taken out, either 2 would have been revenue. And with this revenue not being there, what is being taken away from us in terms of our physical space? This is a budget that has a very tight physical space, and in fact, even in terms of revenue, we basically missed all our targets in the last financial or fiscal year. And so one may think that if we have such crisis and we need to deal with, is the best option going for the removal of taxes, which then brings down our revenues down further. Do we have an alternative to that? Well, we can take off fuel, but we may rake in some revenues by bringing on some new lines of revenues. I don't see it possible at this moment we find ourselves in. Is gold itching up? The gold rally, in terms of price rally, what was happening there, and it's also not looking too good. At the end of the day, this actually tells us and informs us that we will need to really have a very honest conversation about when we talk about restructuring this economy and making it a sound one, where we have diversified most of our activities to ensure that not a single line of our budgets can cause a whole mess for us in terms of our fiscal space. And also this come back to us in terms of the monetary as well, because once you need more in terms of foreign currency to go out there, because certainly we wouldn't have planned for this. We would have probably think of from $67 a barrel, probably if things goes worse, we'll be around 70, 72. But this is the case that we find ourselves around. Now it's around 90s, and it's coming down. I think it dropped about 11%, but that is just because of the narratives out there in terms of the war. If the narrative should change, it will go back again. And are we really prepared for it? And the issue we would have to all ask ourselves, if this escalates further, what we have just done by taking 2% off, can we sustain it? It is not sustainable, right? And because it is not sustainable, I would have felt that once we took that step, we should let the Ghanaian understand that this step is only temporal, and it is not going to be something that can be sustained, and therefore don't expect it to last. I think most of the time that is where government policies are defeated, when the communication is a bit poor. It is a good decision, but I feel that the communication could have been better, so that the people understand. Because you see, the moment these prices went up, the transport owners were talking of increment. The OMCs will be looking for something more. Individuals who depend on this will be looking for more salaries and what have you. Now, the moment we said, okay, 2 cedis is off, whatever it is, it has de-escalated that conversation. But don't assume that businesses, right, private businesses would look at this and just say, oh, let's smile at this, it's okay for us. No, they would actually reinforce themselves, just so that in event that things goes worse or this cannot be sustainable, they will not be found wanting. So although it is transitory in nature, it can be also persistent based on how you manage it. And how you manage it is more of the communication. And I think that is where we need to do a bit of work in. But generally, I think that we have done well. What is saving us is the reserves that we have now. And we all know how we have been able to achieve these reserves. It has come out of a lot of discipline, right? The IMF will probably be back, will not be on our backs soon, and maybe we may jump back into being in discipline, especially when it's getting closer to elections. And that is what I fear. That don't assume that people would forget what has happened, why they are buying fuel today a bit higher, and don't think that they will not pass it on. They may wait 2 years and pass it on. And that is where we need to manage issues well. That we need quickly as a nation to find other alternative of raising foreign currency revenues. And this is so urgent for us, because you see, the gold prices will not stay where they are. No, it will not. And when that happens, certainly we will be found wanting again on the monetary side, and it's also going to affect our fiscal space so much. And therefore, we do not have time. Like you said, it's my government by extension. So yes, I would have to advise that, look, we quickly need to move to other orientations that can bring us a lot of foreign currency. I saw in the past few things being done on the palm front, the finance minister mentioning something. I think we are not taking things serious in this country, and we want to be hit again. Then we wake up again. I mean, we cannot go through these experiences so often. It is not good for doing business, and it is time that we will have to diversify this economy and do it so quickly. We have the opportunity now, so what are we waiting for? The knowledge base is there, and therefore I do not see. I think somebody just need to be bolder, go out there and say, this is what we are doing, and we are doing it on a large scale, and we shouldn't play politics with our economy. Yeah, money does not know any color. It's either you have it or you don't have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Langdon. Let me come to you, Mr. Philip Langdon. Your view on the sustainability of government intervention?
Well, first of all, I think it's very welcome intervention that has come in at this time. Before the intervention came, we had all speculated as to what the government should do, reduce taxes or whatever. But yes, bottom line, they have saved 2 cedis on a gallon of diesel, you know, and I find that also very instrumental because much of our industrial equipment is fueled by diesel. It's public transportation, and much of our transportation and everything is by diesel fuel. So I think that it's a good initiative. I haven't heard anything about aviation fuel. You know, I know aviation fuel is one area that is suffering seriously. You know, if you look at other countries, in Nigeria, for example, it has become a national crisis because there's a lot of internal air travel, and aviation fuel price has gone up by 230% since the crisis started. You know, so I don't know how that, and I know domestic airfares have gone up. So yes, we won't look just purely on the issue of diesel and petrol, but we should look close. I'm happy that we haven't heard anything about the price of LPG, you know, liquefied petroleum gas, which is a major cooking fuel in Ghana. You know, so on that score, I think it's okay. But the point is, you see, when crises occur, it gives the opportunity for us to begin to even think outside the box with a bit more urgency. That's not just say a crisis has come and therefore we use it as an excuse. Oh, well, it's the geopolitics of the world and this is what's happened, so therefore. No! It is an opportunity for us to think outside the box and see what else we can do. Yes, it is good that the government has given us some room with these adjustments and you know, starving itself of some tax revenues, which is also going to affect all of us in the end, long term. But what is important is that we should actually begin to think outside the box, because our economy must be more resilient. I am personally disappointed that after 15 months, I haven't heard of any major interventions in agriculture. Serious project. Oh yes, Ngokon Kitikiti. Ngokon Kitikiti is a subsistence project. Yes, it will make an impact. But what we were talking about, proper poultry business in Ghana, you are looking at the whole chain, from feed, day-old chicks, I mean, broiler and layer production, even processing. If the government takes a policy that in every district we're going to make sure we have a poultry farm that is going to have at least 10,000, 20,000 birds, then you are in business. You know that second cycle institutions will have a higher protein intake. You are creating more jobs, and the chain the feed production and all that, and the processing. Because if you have 10,000 birds, you can't be slaughtering it the way they slaughter birds. You go hold one's neck and cut it with the knife. No, it has to be industrial level. You process it, package it, freezing, drying, smoking. It is a whole process. Then you are making an intervention in the economy. And within 15 months, we should have seen some things like this. These are the kind of things that we want to see. Yes, one chicken is okay. It's all right. Like I'm saying, subsistence. A guy who's doing 15 chickens, 10 chickens, and people are happy. Yeah. But when we are talking about economic intervention, no. You see, and when we process it and we are exporting it, yes, and we know we're earning some foreign currency. We are creating more avenue for food prices are going down. So we must use this opportunity to let us reflect even more about our problems. It is more urgent now. I'll commend the government. When the crisis started initially, the tensions started between America and Iran. And people were afraid that, look, there will be some bombing or some fight might start and what the consequences of the fight will be. So the government urgently began to import electric buses. Thankfully, the buses are now in. Very soon, they're going to be deployed. So there are some good things coming up. But we need serious economic interventions. Yes, we are cutting our diesel consumption, but we must put in other things. Agriculture is our best bet for now. And I want to see an urgency in that. So new processes are coming. There was a reference to the oil palm. Oil palm is a whole industry. A whole industry. When you start with the seedlings and land preparation, production, and then processing of the food, it is a whole industry. These are things that we want to see the government tackle with all seriousness. Because when you do all these things, in a year or two, you begin to see the effects. You see, initially you might not get the food, but you are creating jobs and other spillover businesses. So we must not sit back and say, oh yeah, the government has reduced some tax, so the government has done well. No. It's too temporary. It's too temporary. Thankfully, the price is dropping again. Because, why? Yesterday, Donald Trump and the Iranians were coming out with messages that have allayed the concerns of the markets. So, oil price is responding, it's coming down. It's actually beginning to drop below 90. But when I did with Donald Trump, can you be sure? You can't be sure. Tomorrow we never know what's going to come up. So you cannot say that because of these things, so therefore we are. No. So yes, that's move by the government to handle this thing. It's welcome, and we all appreciate it. But for our ultimate survival and progress, we need some more sustainable, more deeper programs to help in the resilience of our economy to these shocks. Because today is oil. You never know what's going to come around tomorrow. Whoever dreamt of COVID? Nobody did. So these things happen. So I think when this crisis or crisis like this come up, it should be another wake-up call for us as a country and our governments to sit up and begin to think outside the box and get everybody involved. Because at the end of the day, when the problem comes, it's for all of us. So we find solutions to our problems, and tackle the issues in our national interest. So I think that it's okay, but there's a lot more we should do and take advantage of the difficulty of the situation to move forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip London. Honorable.
Yes. So I was quoted somewhere as saying that if the NDC performs well, all of Ghana benefits. The fact still remains, any government that performs well, the entire country benefits. I'm not of the school of thought that people must perform badly for me to look good. That's not my philosophy. Albeit, I must admit that First of all, I think the NDC has come to some reality which I appreciate, which is that events 7,000 miles or kilometers away can and may impact Ghana's livelihood. During the opposition period, or when they were campaigning, it was very difficult for them to grasp to a large extent that some activities in some corner somewhere in the world can impact our economy, in the sense that grains from and flour from quote-unquote Ukraine impacted Ghana's bread making industry, and for that matter bread and butter issues were impacted by a war that we had not one missile in. Is instructive to watch the likes of our president admit that we may be impacted, and we will be impacted by Donald Trump's government, by their inactions or actions in Iran with regards to their relations with Israel. So, for me, I think that is a major breaking news to hear from the NDC, and even my very good friend who's an accountant admit that truly Ghana is not isolated, and that even the 24-hour economy, which will run on fuel, will be impacted. So I think the Secretariat should do Ghanaians a favor to come out on how this fuel increment will impact the flagship program, which is yet to be really fully implemented. Now, I listened to Setekwe while I was in opposition. One of the things that I must commend him for at the time was his, discussions of how reserves should be used, and how we should be very disciplined about it, and how it can offset as in times of troubles like this. But let me admit that this situation that we're in today with Donald Trump, nobody would have ever guesstimated. And I use the word guesstimate because in aligning all the stars, nobody would have thought that somebody American will take this risk, because this risk certainly, if well calculated, no well-meaning president will take this risk. It becomes so evident, whether the Americans like it or not, that this was very avoidable, very unnecessary. Lives may have been lost, and we're back to ground zero, in the sense that the regime has not been toppled, and that the Iranians have also stood their ground, and without convincing anybody, the fact that the British and the French and the Canadians withdrew their support of this war, for me, just speaks volumes, in the sense that they feel that this was not justified. And I'm not Catholic, but literally it's also, very interesting to see the Catholic Church come out strong and say that they support some justified wars, but this one in particular, they shy away from supporting it. So these are some of the nuances. But coming back to our country, what is very clear to all of us Ghanaians is that we have been hit by a problem several kilometers from our shores, and resilience alone does not always solve the problem. Some world events are catastrophic in nature, and when you're doing your forward-looking statements, you do not anticipate that these things will happen. Every government will have its COVID. I think that the Iranian situation is, in a way, the NDC's COVID to an extent, in the sense that it would offset them, and they have to come out early and admit. And let me also say that cushioning is not an easy thing. You can't sustain it for 6 months. So it begs the question, what happens to the 1 Ghana cedi at the pump? And let me also treat Mr. President that I had always wished that his second tenure, I wouldn't be faced with light off, light on. And it's unfortunate that I don't know what it is, but the current situation doesn't speak too well of the government in terms of their energy management. And listen, I so wish that Dumso, or this seemingly face off, face on situation we are facing can be put behind us. It's becoming a bit annoying, forgive me for lack of a better word. And I don't want this government to be known as a government of energy mismanagement. I really don't want that. In as much as, one era of Muhammad administration was, about darkness in this country. So energy matters. I think cabinet should sit with the president carefully and look at the legacy and the challenges they are facing now, and come out boldly and speak to Ghanaians and say that, listen, these are the true challenges. This is what we can do in the short term, and this is what we can do in the long term. But I'm deeply troubled already. Without the Iranian war, we're having these light issues, and I thought was going to be resolved within a short period. And certainly, I'm speaking to the Minister for Energy and pleading alongside all Ghanaians that, hey, this light issue is becoming a bit challenging. People's fridges are being destroyed, people's electric devices, and for some of us in the healthcare industry, major equipment are being damaged, and it's terrible. It's terrible. So in line with fuel, which we all run on, and let's admit that when fuel prices go up, everything goes up. The market woman, once her fares are up, the tomato cost will go up, the onion cost will go up. And these are basics. Even if you went to Ada for salt, you transport it into Accra, you pay more.
Yeah, for transport fares.
You pay more.
Yeah.
And we are in a situation where, ordinary Ghanaians, in the morning their transport fares are different, afternoon it's different, nighttime when they are going back home it's different. This is a situation we find ourselves in. And these are not good. We need predictability. Some certainty in the economy is very important for, consumers. And we're pleading with our government that, listen, these matters need to be faced head on. And the president should show strong leadership in talking to Ghanaians in exactness, painting the true picture, and not, have this situation where we would unearth in a few months, quote unquote, the quantum of money that supposedly cushioned our country in times of the Iranian-American tussle, or shall I say, war. And I'm pleading, that we do it in line with what is transparent, because I remember even within the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that the world order came at us for, as it is, toying with OPEC prices in this country. We also cushioned at some point in time, and they did not like that. They felt that the ordinary Ghanaian had to feel the exact world prices and the changes as it was. And need I remind all of us that this cushioning effect is a malfeasance in a way. It's not accepted globally. I mean, when you try and play with oil prices within your country.
But the margin is not that huge.
Well, I mean, this is you know, the initial toying, like I said, and this is what has met the eye. There's more behind the scenes,
right?
And to borrow from some of the auditing firms, if you're not disciplined in worrying times, it will hit you later. And I think that this will impact 24-hour economy, whether we like it or not. And the president needs to come out with clear direction what we stand to do in the next 6 months. The budget of 2026 did not foresee this situation. So mid-year, we're hoping that the Honorable Atufosim will come out and tell us the difference in terms of his budgetary allocation for energy and how he's had to move something from somewhere. That movement from somewhere needs to be accounted for. We want to know as Ghanaians, you know, so that we also prepare ourselves that, oh, okay, this presidency took X amount from us, way bigger than the e-levy, and instead of defraying the debt which they had promised us, now that debt has not been defrayed, but then the money was used to cushion us in terms of this jump in the market pricing from $60 to $100. And I think I'll side with Uncle Philip that the agro or agric industry has been left out within the Mahama administration, and we're running only on gold or mining at this point in time. And maybe it's good, but food sustainability is also a very important thing. We need to grow what we eat. We need to be mindful that we can't mine and destroy everything to the extent that we may have to be importing water to drink in this country. In fact, when I see some of my expatriates bring water, sometimes I worry. You know, why would you ship drinking water to Ghana? But they do it. They are doing it because of some of the situations we are finding ourselves in. And I plead with the government that in all of this, Eric Opoku needs to also wake up. And,
that's the agric minister.
And attend to our needs. And what has become very clear is that even the NDC is aware that this chicken propaganda is not flying based on the consumption or the needs in this country, the volume of AGYEKUM and the volume that is actually in the market. It's a huge mismatch, and they need to go back to the drawing board to work out something monumental than this Koko Nkiti. I don't know about Akatamanso and chicken and guinea fowl. I don't know, but it seems that every time the umbrella always has something up their sleeves with.
Well, perhaps they believe that that's a livestock that we consume the more or the most
well, we
Ghana.
consume rice too.
Well, we do.
Yeah. and in fact, you know what's funny? I always think that it's ridiculous that they win massively on the coastal front, and I would have thought that restocking our fish and marine would have been one of the things that the NDC would do. But here we are. They don't even talk about fisheries as much,
right.
and that is an indictment on the party, and it's an indictment. We did something quite monumental, which we paid our price for by doing these harbors, but it is fantastic when you look at the harbors that the Nana Danko Akufo-Addo put together. It's fantastic. But in all of this, energy can bring your government down or make you, and we are at that point where what is very clear, even Donald Trump was crying when he looked at the jumping prices of fuel, and the fact that where 20% of energy passes through is creating havoc for even America. So, dear Mr. President, who we all respect as our president, John Dramani Mahama, kindly, you know, the MPP was doing this with COVID. We need to hear the president more clearly, more succinctly, as to what he intends to do.
The dynamics are. Yeah.
Because there's a lot behind. I mean, listen, the full brunt of this Iranian issue, we will feel it more heavily in May. I mean, yes. So we want to hear. And wherever Atuforsen is cushioning us, we want to know. And some are asking, okay, e-levy, we told Ghanaians how much revenue we had generated. The 1 Ghana CD, please, let us know. Because it goes into the consolidated fund. It's not an Atuforsen pocket. Tell Ghanaians, let us know the gap. Let's see, as you promised, what you're going to give to our debt. It's fascinating that I'm hearing that a good chunk of about $450 million is being applied for roads, you know, from ESLA or something like that. It's nice. We also want to know how much of the 1 Ghana CD at the pump is going to cushion this energy price oscillations. Let me use that word, oscillations. So these are my thoughts. But in on the street, what is clear is that Irani ama 24 hour ato, you know.
But you can't say that for a fact.
Oh, I mean,
I think this is something we're still trying to stay afloat on.
This one is pure politics.
Yeah, I mean, we take in that light. But we are still trying to stay afloat. We can't say that the Iranian situation has condemned us, you know, to
no, I would have hoped, but we know that 24-hour economy runs on energy.
Yes.
So when you have a dent in your energy situation, manufacturers who should have run extra shift. I mean, we were looking at operational expenditures, and the accountant here is aware that moving from $60 to $100, that's $40. It's heavy. It's heavy.
Don, would you like to rebut that?
There's no rebutting here.
Would you like to rebut that?
The issue is, he said it himself. He said the 24-hour economy is not fully operational.
Right.
So how does such a thing fall in water?
That's the same question I was asking.
But there is something I want to push here. I perhaps was at the forefront of saying that, look, the Ukraine-Russian war was not responsible for the persistent inflation we had in the past. And I can share with my brother. Look, I wrote letters in 2020, late 2020, to the governor of the Bank of Ghana, and copied the finance minister and copied the president, right, regarding how we were managing our M2 plus, our money supply. Because I have saw the trend way back that in 2 years' time, this is what is going to happen. And in fact, I got no answer, right? You see, this is a typical case of transitory inflation, and it will pass if things get resolved. What we experience was not a transitory inflation in 2022. It was a persistent inflation. It went on for more than 12 months. You understand? So it is not the same thing here. In this case, our monetary side is doing better. I'm not saying that it's all good, but they are doing better in terms of managing money supply. You can see the curves are coming down, especially in terms of foreign currency deposits. It is not the same from after COVID, then to 2021, and then to 2022, we got the full impact of whatever was going on.
Right.
If we manage this well, we won't get to that stage.
Right.
So they are not the same thing.
Right. Let me take Comrade Kwesi Pratt's view on this subject matter, and we can make way for other rebuttals or other clarifications. And I'll read a few messages going forward. Comrade.
Well, Fitz is predicting that the turmoil in the oil market would not have a devastating impact on the Ghanaian economy. Indeed, they're saying that if at all, the impact will be minimal. Okay. Now, why are they saying this? They're saying this for two main reasons. One is that Ghana is also an exporter of gold, and that the price of gold is likely to more than double by the close of the year. They're also saying that Ghana is actually also a crude oil producer. So when the price goes up in the international market, our revenue is also likely to go up. So as a result of these two factors, they are not expecting that what is happening will have tremendous adverse effect on the Ghanaian economy. This is Fitz. Now, it's important for us also to understand clearly what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. As we speak, it is difficult to predict what is happening now and what is likely to happen in the future. One, yesterday or 2 days ago, 40 countries met to design a strategy for opening the Strait of Hormuz through non-military action, through diplomacy and all kinds of things, to open the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. That meeting apparently was led by Macron of France and Starmer of the UK. At the end of the meeting, Donald Trump warned them to stay away from the Strait of Hormuz. So he doesn't want to see them in the Strait of doing anything about the Strait of Hormuz. What does that mean? I'm not sure. You understand? But this is the state of the Strait of Hormuz. Something else has happened. Yesterday, Iran actually declared that the strait is opened, and that vessels wanting to use the strait can use a designated path and there'll be no problem. So the Strait of Hormuz, as far as Iran was concerned, was opened. Then Donald Trump first said that the strait was opened. By nightfall, Donald Trump was telling us that he will close the Strait of Hormuz. He had ordered that the Strait of Hormuz be closed. So the price of crude, the price of oil, kept tumbling, but it started rising again. And nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. In any case, if you listen to Donald Trump's account of how the problem is being resolved, it is substantially different from the Iranian account. So, for example, Donald Trump says that the Iranian authorities have agreed that the United States of America should take control, should take enriched uranium, all of the enriched uranium. The Iranian says that no such agreement has been reached. The Iranians have said clearly that they can only reach a sustainable ceasefire if the hostilities in Lebanon come to an end. Donald Trump says that he has ordered Israel to stop bombing Lebanon. Last night, Netanyahu said that the job has not been finished in Lebanon. Total confusion. Okay? Total confusion. So, nobody today, on the basis of the exchanges taking place between the United States of America, Israel, and Iran, can make a determination as to when traffic in the Strait of Hormuz can become normal and stable. Nobody can make that prediction. And that is what is driving, driving the price of oil up and so on. So this is the uncertainty that we are living in. Now, having said that, I think it is commendable that the government of Ghana is thinking about alleviating the suffering of Ghanaians on the basis of the fact that whatever happened to petroleum prices will have a ripple effect throughout the economy. So if they're thinking about dealing with that by providing some kind of a subsidy and so on, I think that the thinking is commendable, the initiative is commendable, but there are important questions to ask. And you see, if you reduce taxation on oil, it means that the overall national revenue would be affected. It would dwindle. Now, if the overall national revenue is going to come down, which sector of the national economy is going to suffer as a result of that subsidy on petroleum products? Now, that's a discussion we need to have. We need to be told that subsidy, where is it coming from, and what impact is it going to make on the overall economy? Then we can have a meaningful discussion. But if you're just told that petroleum prices are going to be subsidized, yes, the intention is good, but I want to understand the ripple effect of that throughout the economy. And I don't have, that answer.
We don't all have. Today we are on the same tangent. And I'm very happy. We don't all have.
Okay.
We don't all have.
Okay. So, I don't understand that, Now, again, this is possibly also a very big lesson to governments and those who have a responsibility to manage the national economy. This is the demonstration that there are several imponderables in the management of a national economy, and that we cannot always be in 100% control of all the factors, that we can be hit with surprises and so on. That is an important thing that we need to recognize in the management of the national economy. The second thing we need to be conscious of is that economic indicators driven by commodity prices are transient and not reliable. Okay? So if your economy is doing well because of rising commodity prices and so on, you ought to be careful. And this may suggest to us that we need to find a different model of assessing the state of the economy and as guidance to the management of the economy overall. Commodity prices are not sufficient to push us to start jubilating about the state of the economy. Commodity prices are tricky. They can change very quickly, and it can lead to offsets, in the figures that we see and so on. Now, I don't want to extend this discussion into a broad discussion of the performance of the national economy. Maybe we should do that later. All I want to say for now is simply that, yes, economic indicators may look good. Economic indicators may look good. But if we go beyond the surface, we might not like what we find. Okay? Because all of the indicators that we have been told of and about, forever, if you like, you can start from 1982 and so on. They are all basically statistical averages. And the statistical averages do not tell the full story. So, for example, if you are told that your per capita income has increased, what does it actually mean?
More good.
In real terms, what does it actually mean? Does it mean that the majority of the people of Ghana, their standard of living has improved? It may not.
No.
It may even mean that the majority of the people of Ghana, their standard of living has fallen, and so on. You understand? If you are told or given figures about the gross domestic product, what does that mean in real terms, and so on? So there's always the need to interrogate further to ask other questions and so on, so that we can arrive at the mean. So far, the figures look very impressive. No doubt at all. I mean, look, this country's inflation rate hit 54% at some stage, 54% inflation.
And then to 23.
Whatever it is, but it hit 54% at some stage. You understand? A couple of weeks ago, we were being told that the inflation rate was 3.3%. Unprecedented in our history. And I say this with confidence. Unprecedented in our history. But we need to ask more questions. You understand? And it's not just about that. If you look at the exchange rate, wow, it's impressive. I mean, for a long time, for a very long time, the cedi's value never appreciated. It kept on appreciating to the extent that it could move from less than 4 cedis to $1 to 17 cedis to $1 in a space of 8 years. You understand? So, on the face value, the figures are looking very, very impressive. But I want to ask more questions, and maybe that is not the time. This is not the time, you know.
Right. I'm thinking when the right time would be. I mean, because the submissions.
I mean, to arrive at that,
we can't exhaust
like he has rightly said.
Right.
The numbers looks beautiful, but when you go deep in there, you may find a lot of issues.
But the communication aspects that
that I mentioned. We need to communicate better. The Ghanaian folk understand what is going on. But I think that in terms of what Fitch is saying, we should tread cautiously in terms of the gold prices. Now, if you look at the central banks, most of them are at the peak in terms of gold purchase, and it is most likely that they may want to sell. They may want to sell because if you look at the prediction in terms of Wells Fargo, JP Morgan and all that, they are all kind of between 6,300. I think the highest may be around 7,200. But I am of the view that if we would want to project, we should project around 4,800, 4,900. It would not, by end of close of year, we won't have what we are hoping for, and that may affect us. So we should tread cautiously in there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Don.
The Fitch prediction for close of year is also around $4,800
exactly
dollars per ounce. The current price is around 2,600, 2,800 per ounce. But the first prediction is that it will close at 4,000, about 4,800. So it fits into what you're saying.
Right, thank you very much. Insightful submissions. We've got some messages coming through. This one says, good morning. Watching you on Pan-African TV and the power just went off. All right. I mean, it confirms Ms. Adumakuti's sentiments. It confirms your sentiments as to
the power went off.
Yes, after he, yes.
But there has been an explanation.
Maintenance is going on.
In fact, what the Ministry of Energy has said is that it's about replacement and repair of transformers, and that is not going to take a long time. Now, this explanation is not substantially different from the explanation that the MPP gave when we had a similar experience. I recall that in that period, the MPP told us that this was not Doomso, but Doom CAC. Don't forget.
I agree with you, except for the fact that, in all honesty, and this time, I don't know, I'm feeling it too much. I mean, what I mean by that is that, listen, it was in blocks. But when my block is not going through changing transformers, why do I get
you see, sometimes too, you see, when Doomso comes, When in opposition, you feel it.
That's what that was the line I was going to talk. I was very cautious. I was going to ask that. So did you feel it when your party was in power?
No, but I must say on record that the NAPO Energy Ministry so at the time, I don't think it was as frequent as this one. That is my
wow.
Really?
So I think that and
Wow.
I have been very I've been very hopeful.
He's yet to ask for a timetable.
I have been very hopeful that the second term of the Mahama administration would try and depart from this. This is my hope. Please hear me out. I'm hoping that this presidency.
Your hope was that transformers will not be repaired and transformers will not be changed.
Whatever it is, listen. I'm in New York. Lights are on. They do transformer changes.
Yes.
What is different in this country?
Yes, there's a buffer in the supply system, so they can switch
What is it?
and do
No,
changes.
What is it?
we should understand that in our energy sector, the challenges there are really distressing. Like you are saying, you are in New York and then lights of transformers are changing, you are switched on to another. We don't have that infrastructure. Let's be clear about that. We don't have that infrastructure. The way our lines are designed and all that makes it difficult for us to do those things. So we may be looking at a major investment into that sector.
Right.
That is a discussion we need to have
for another day.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Philip Landry, did you...
Actually, my witness is OHEMAA. For us in Pan-African television at the Lingpe, what you experiencing is what you have been experiencing for 10 years or more. 15 years. That's it.
You're in the plush side of town.
You understand?
We're in the
So for us,
boondocks.
it makes no difference.
Yeah.
For
We're in the
about 10
boondocks.
years now, this has been our experience.
We're in the boondocks. So I'm talking from the,
Yeah.
you know,
and also
Mr. Philip
basically
Landry,
the same
quickly, you
place,
wanted to...
Yeah, see, when we're talking about the resilience of the economy, it just reminded me of a situation that occurred once. You know, there was this boxer from one of the Far Eastern countries, and when he went on the ring, you know, that's why he was so huge and so strong looking and so, you know. So then this man, he's so resilient, nobody can beat him. Like the Ghanaian economy. But apparently, they said in the morning he's used to eating, you know, a certain breakfast which gives him his energy. Then they gave him tea.
and then that finished him. So the Ghanaian economy,
Right.
So
tea can finish him.
All right. Thank you for your submissions, and to our viewers, let me take a few messages and we can transition into our next topic.
I thought our viewers had light off.
No, not all of them. Says, good morning, OHEMAA. My greetings to your panelists and yourself. Thank you. As a regular viewer of your channel and programs, I'm grateful. I want to make a compliment. Kindly tell Honorable Comrade Kwesi Pratt that this is from Abubakar Segueda Musa. I pray every prayer time to Allah to extend his life, and just as he has done for us, just as he has done for our national chief imam. The reason being that I have been following him since 1983 from PNDC era. When I was a schoolboy, I know that he went through the efforts he made to establish our fourth Republic democracy. May Allah bless him and all Pan-African TV workers. Thank you so much. Hearing the name Pan-African TV, it moves my motivation, right? Inspiring. Thank you. This one says that Iran shows to the world that they don't need nuclear weapons to fight against their enemies. The only thing they need is the Straits of Hormuz, Tafa in Amrahia. All right, thank you. Let me do one more. This one says that President John Dramani Mahama's big push has constructed more roads in various parts of Ghana. Ghana needs more roads, and the big push agenda is doing so well. So I don't understand why MPP minority caucus in Parliament want to use sole sourcing as a tool to oppose and delay the big push agenda. NPP minority caucus leader in Parliament, Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markins, must support the big push agenda because it is the same big push agenda they are using to construct the Cape Coast Winneba roads in Afenyo-Markins constituency. Right, thank you for your messages. At this point, we will just move on to our last topic for discussion. I think we would have to apportion the time very judiciously so that we are able to so that we are able to do well with time. I'm not sure what your interest in the case is, but I think equity will prevail here. Right. So the OSP, the High Court ruling concerning the OSP, and the court has held that the OSP no longer has independent prosecutorial powers when it comes to prosecuting corruption and corruption-related matters in relation to its findings. Now, there have been several reactions which I expected, but one that actually made me laugh was lawyer Martin Pigbu's reaction. Says that this is a sweet outcome, and he has personal sort of issues with the OSP given his governance and some appointees within the office. Let's look at what this means in our legal system. Mr. Philip Langdon, I start with you.
Well, thank you very much. Just to make reference to Mr. Martin Pigbu's comments, it appears very personal, not anything to do with it. So I don't think it's something I would even want to consider.
Right.
This is a national matter that when we are discussing, we should discuss along that line. Our personal sentiments should have no place. So when it comes to some of these national issues and people who some level of influence and regard personalize it like that, I don't think it's the best. It's not fair on the person he has a relationship or with or anybody else. Anyway, one thing has come out very clearly in this matter, that if you consider the entire political divide, generally you come to an acceptance that there was a fundamental legal deficiency when it came to the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. A deficiency that didn't necessarily emerge yesterday or emerge with the Attorney General filing the case against the office of special prosecutor. This was a deficiency that had been noticed, recognized, and had persisted. I've had one former Attorney General, AGYEKUM, said that look, this problem was there. I've had former Speaker, Right Honorable Michael Quay, also come out to say, no, this thing was a problem that was there. We should have dealt with it. You've had prominent voices on the other side as well. So this is something that has been existed. So this thing cannot be, I don't think there should be any partisan issue in this matter. We should blame the political class, because at the end of the day, the electorate, who had a lot of expectations in the position of the office of the special prosecutor, it has nothing to do with the person holding the office, had a lot of expectations in that office, are going to be disappointed. And as they hear the disappointment, and it's being supported from both sides, what are they going to think? That, hey, did these people mislead us? Were we deceived or what? And these are serious developments. Now, in trying to cure the difficulty that has arisen out of the way the office was created, various suggestions have been made. Oh, it's just a matter of the Attorney General giving an instruction to the Office of the Special Prosecutor that, hey, just go ahead with this. Unless I've said, make an amendment to the Constitution, like we have said in the United Party, that we must have a truly independent Office of Special Prosecutor or any such prosecutor who would have the confidence to go about his duties without political fear or favor. You see. But it appears as though a lot of it is settling down on the personalities involved. That, oh, it's because Kisia Jabin said this. It's because, no. It shouldn't come to that. It shouldn't come to that. I think all parties must look at this thing with the country in view, the nation in view. Let us solve it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't serve anybody's purpose, either side or any other side of the political divide. This is something that the people of Ghana have looked up to and look forward to. And if there's a disappointment there, that disappointment will go across board. Across board. So this is something that, no, I don't think anybody should be trying to claim any political victory or whatever. I think it's something that should be soberly considered and dealt with. So the expectations of the people of Ghana to have an independent office of a special prosecutor, of a competent individual who can do the job, is maintained. That's all that is.
Right, thank you very much. But with regards to the political connection or relations to this matter, the Deputy Attorney General came to clarify and debunked the allegations that the Attorney General is, making a move to sort of capture the OSPs or take over the OSP's office, and particularly founded on some comments from, reactions coming through, but especially a comment from Martin Amidu, who says that the relationship between the OSP and the Attorney General has been broken beyond repair. And he said that this is due process. Now you go to court and the court has, made a declaration. And that is a reiteration of the dictates of the Constitution. And so there should be no need for political, scoring political points or jubilation or whatever. I
agree 100%. You see, just like I'm saying, that big legal minds on both sides have accepted that this thing as a problem, as a consequence of a fundamental flaw in the creation of the office. But it appears as though this thing has taken some personal dimensions. You see, I don't want to call any names, but that's what I'm saying, that this thing should be looked at and dealt with Ghana in view, with personal sentiments and, put aside, because it's coming too much into it. And when you have people like Martin Pebu make the kind of comments that they're making, it further fuels that terrible situation. Everybody must pipe down. Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Special Prosecutor himself. Let the Constitution run. Let the courts run. And let us cure that problem. Because the Office of the Attorney General itself cannot handle all the cases that it has. So, logically, one will ask himself that, why would the Attorney General want to take that position? But you still have a constitutional problem that has to be sorted out. So it must be cured, so that the Office of Special Prosecutor can do its job.
Right.
The Attorney General too can do his job. So there's no problem. Because the fundamental problem is the weakness of Article 88 or something of the Constitution. That's what it is. That's what it all boils down to.
You think there's a weakness?
Yes.
Some have said that they don't believe this should be a big deal. The OSP has come out to say that the High Court didn't have jurisdiction to make such pronouncement, but the High Court based its pronouncement on Article 88 of the Constitution. What do you think?
Well, I like you rightly asked from the beginning, what this really means. And for me, it means nothing. It means nothing, basically, because I think that this rather exposes the hypocrisy in our governance structure. Hearing lawyer AGYEKUM, and then the former speaker, who is also a lawyer, for that matter, and it was under his tenure as Speaker of Parliament the act was passed, isn't it?
Yes.
What did he do about it? Knowing clearly that powers given to the OSP was clashing with Article 884 of the Constitution, and that could have been a problem tomorrow when someone takes it up. What did we do about it? You know, it therefore suggests that the arms of government are basically useless, excuse my language. Because why do we have Parliament? A bill came to you, Parliament sat on this bill, there is a legal committee in Parliament that would have dealt with this, and are you saying nobody did realize such a flaw in the act? And we wasted everybody's time till date for such a pronouncement, not at the Supreme Court, but by an High Court judge. I think we have the caliber of this High Court judge in that Parliament. And so why did we, the lawyers then in Parliament, he, the Speaker, what did he advise then? And why are we here today? If it clashes with the Constitution, clearly the Constitution has to be supreme. And so that is what has only been established. Now, the other aspect of it is that it means nothing because I think the two individuals who have held that position of an OSP has not really bequeathed themselves well in handling the office. You know, this office had come into being for various reasons, where it is saying that a party in power appoints the Attorney General, and the Attorney General is not different from the Minister of Justice. It is the same thing, and they go after their opponents and prosecute their opponent and all that, and you wait for 8 years probably before you could correct the wrongs in one administration and what have you, and therefore let's bring in an independent prosecutor who would have the prosecutorial powers to go after people who he feels are doing something wrong within the system. Now, we are back to zero. It has been defeated. If the pronouncement of the High Court is anything to go by. And so everything we have done, every investment put in, and you see, this is where it makes it's a bit difficult and challenging to discuss some of these issues. That do we call back all those parliamentarians and the speakers and all that, strip them of their salary for them to pay back to us? Because we have lost. As a nation, we have lost all this. The institution that was created, money that was invested in there, and all the things that has happened. Now, if they do not have those powers, will it take retrospective effect that any pronouncement they have made, any prosecutions they have gone on to do and what have you, is null and void? What does that make us in terms of people in the space of governance? Are we really of essence, and are we really living to what we are supposed to live up to in terms of what the Constitution and the powers the Constitution grants us? We are taking governance too cheap and not serious in this country, and I think it's something we need to look at.
Right. Thank you very much, Don. Honorable.
Yes, with regards to this OSP conundrum. I've been of a firm belief that there's more of a duplication of effort. I was and still not in support. I think that the Attorney General's office should be fully prosecutorial, and all that is needed for high crimes they are equipped with. It is more of a political will, more so than creating additional offices to, as it is, appear to be attending to crimes. So in one breath, what the Attorney General has done or sought to do was to let Ghanaians know that he's there, and that he's lord over the OSP, which I think this is a signaling effect. If you can't have all of it prosecutorial powers, then you're under somebody. So in a nutshell, as a dent to, as it is, crime stopping or corruption to one breath. But I also think that what is important is that the government needs to empower the Attorney General's office with well-resourced people, and cars do not make up resources, which sometimes I find it very difficult, why the OSP's office has so many vehicles. So we need appropriate equipment, like for forensics, and very good accountants and auditors. These are the things that I think we are hoping for if you are really looking to fight crimes. And one of the sins of government, and I must admit, government doesn't want to pay for competent people to do things that business will do. And that is why sometimes governmental decisions are not at par with some businesses, because the business people will pay very skilled auditors, very skilled lawyers to do the job. And that is what I'm hoping that government will be doing in the future, because we lose out on a lot when we don't have those kinds of people at the forefront of handling our matters. So then we go and we propose bad deals on lithium, and we tell the general public that we're doing a service to the country. I'm so troubled when the thought of reducing your royalties to a nation, and you think we should pat you on the back. That is so incongruous with my thinking as a level-headed citizen. Mm-hmm. So in summary, I think that the OSP, to some large extent, has been a duplication of effort, and then I think that people have hidden under the guise of trying to appear to be fighting corruption, and that is more of a lack of political will. There's no single case in this country that the Attorney General, who's a lawyer for the president, cannot necessarily prosecute. But I must admit, one of the failures of this Attorney General, who I like, is the fact that he did not allow certain legal proceedings to complete and cut them short. And that begs the question. Does he have the political will? Will he prosecute his own? Because he has signaled something different.
Well, I beg to truncate. The Attorney General did not, on his own accord, put this pronouncement.
No, I'm not saying
it came out as a result of a trial that the OSP himself initiated.
Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about cases.
Yeah, help me understand.
Cases like Dufour.
All right.
Old ongoing cases that per assumption of office, he wrote a forgiveness letter, a pardon. And in other jurisdictions, your pardons are interrogated to determine whether the pardons were, politically motivated or not. So my biggest thing, in as much as I like Ayini, my biggest thing is that his legacy, one of his legacies, is the fact that he, being the Attorney General, instead of allowing the laws of the land to proceed, and maybe by way of shaping some of the things, he just truncated things. And I think that my small knowledge of the law, you let things pan out so that other generations can learn. And the arguments that people would have made on or in behalf of Opuni and others would have been a script or a case law, as they say, for others to come and appreciate the in-depth orations of the justices or whoever were handling this. So I think that he's done us a disservice as a nation in that regard. And in concluding, the OSP's office, I think, is a duplication of effort. What we need is a political will and somebody with muscle to really prosecute people the Chinese way. When you stifle the nation, you get prosecuted, and we need to. As it is also, I hesitate to use this word, but I'm looking carefully. Maybe later on I can discuss with Kwesi Pratt Jr. That junior thing there has to be removed though. Now you have to be senior. Anyways, I think, with defamations and social media and how we damage people's hard-won reputation is becoming a big problem in this country. And I cite the likes of Airbus, and I cite the likes of Opuni. And I say this with the greatest of respect that, it's damaging to the political class. And as I sit here, with all intentions being good for Ghana, in as much as I'm doing so well or trying to doing so well for Ghana, at some point somebody will come and character assassinate me. And I want our laws and rules to be strengthened to protect some of us, not because of our intentions to maybe corrupt the system, but sometimes looking at some of the trials that have gone on, and I beg to say this on air, that when I look at some of the people that were shot and killed for peanuts, and some of the things that have happened 20 years later, I cry. And I think that it was an injustice to the likes of even a Champon, injustice to many other judges who were killed for lack of a better word, an assumption or a presumption of stealing 10 Ghana cedis, or even if we escalate it to today's in economic terms, those monies are nowhere near some of the high crimes that we have heard of. And I think that looking at all of these things, I think that what Ghana needs more is truthfulness, transparency, accountability. That word has many shades, but we need to get the real shade, the true red, gold, and green with black star in there, so that Ghanaians will come to have legitimate faith in the political class, and that we mean well. Granted, this action is almost like a step backwards. We took a step in Parliament to bring a OSP. Performance has been poor for both. When I talk of the first one was the NDC Martin Amidu, a flop. The second one, a flop. And clearly, it might not be the individuals. It's how the system has been set up. And that is what has to be addressed. And in all of this, is there political will? And when you have a president who rides in a brother's, not V8, a brother's aircraft, it begs the question. These are terrible things.
What has that got to do with?
No, I'm just telling you. These are.
What has that got to do with that?
Who dare prosecute the president's brother? Who dare?
For what? Why not?
No, I'm just saying, these are the situations we find ourselves in. You get where I'm coming from.
You're being mischievous, but
London, you get where I'm coming from.
Let me.
So the Attorney General has. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying this based on, I mean, you know what I'm saying. So I think that one, we've taken steps forward to create an office to fight corruption. And now we have an Attorney General who then backtracks. So what really are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? I'm of the opinion that the Attorney General's office alone can't do everything if there's political will, not putting layers of bureaucracy.
Okay.
But this move is, to a large extent, in addition to the other move where we just cut short cases, for me, is rather telling me that, listen, we are not serious. with regards to fighting
and by
corruption.
cutting short cases is him applying his discretionary powers? That's what you mean?
I don't want to go into it too much, but
Okay.
I'm sure.
All right.
You cannot prosecute something you don't believe in. It's as simple as that.
Right.
So that's discretionary.
That's discretionary.
It's not just discretionary.
No. What you've said is pure discretionary.
It's
So
not just.
There should be
Anyway,
limitations
anyway.
to discretion.
But
Let's leave it there.
The
Let's leave it
Constitution
there.
confers on
Yeah.
him.
I don't know.
And
the- I
there's
don't know
no-
the
So
details.
let's leave it
I
There's
there.
don't
no-
know the details of the case.
Right.
If I find a case and I realize that this is going to be a challenge to go on and prosecute successfully, why should I go on? Because you demand resources to do that.
Right.
And you must do it with all the verve that is needed to do it. It is like a person, you bring me your tax case and I look at it and I say, look, go and pay. Yeah, it's not discretion. It is based on the facts.
The end game.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's another conversation for another day.
I just wanted to tease it out.
Yeah.
Very important.
Right. Comrade Chrissy Pratt, take the last bite and we can wrap up.
Well, I'm in no doubt at all that we are in this situation because the so-called political class colluded to hoodwink the people of Ghana. Everybody knew, NDC, MPP, everybody knew that the Office of Special Prosecution was a contraption which had no basis in law. And yet, we went ahead and did it because everybody wanted to look politically good. Here is the MPP which had gone for an election and has said that it was going to pursue the fight against corruption with vigor. And that one of the ways of doing that was to separate the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice. And that because the Minister of Justice and Attorney General was appointed by the President, he was likely to be biased and so on. That was the argument. Having won the election, they then proceeded to set up the Office of Special Prosecutor to hoodwink us. Because in the final analysis, the Special Prosecutor was also appointed by the government, by the same President who would have appointed the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. That was throwing dust in our eyes. Now, this matter went to Parliament. It went to Parliament. The NDC did not want to oppose it, knowing that it was wrong. NDC knew that it was wrong, that what was being done was an affront to the Constitution and so on. But the NDC also wanted to look good. They didn't want to look like the guys who were opposed to the fight against corruption, so they said, let it go. So both parties connived and conspired and imposed the Office of Special Prosecution on us. This is why we are here. You understand? Because the constitutional provision is clear. You cannot carry out prosecution in Ghana without the fiat of the Attorney General. Finished. So these two parties and their leaders just simply messed us up.
They scammed us.
You understand? Now, for me, what is interesting, what is most interesting, is that right now, there's a lot of noise about the presumed powers of the Attorney General and the Office of Special Prosecution. So much noise. All those making the noise know the truth. And they know that the noise making is not warranted, has no value. And they are continuing to make the noise again to hoodwink us again, just like they did to us when they established the Office of Special Prosecution. What has the High Court said? First, you have to acknowledge that the police does prosecutions on the fiat of the Attorney General. Yoko does prosecutions on the fiat of the Attorney General. In fact, Customs does prosecutions on the fiat of the Attorney General. There are several institutions which does prosecutions on the fiat of the Attorney General. What the court is simply saying is that OSP do prosecutions on the fiat of the Attorney General. Finish.
That's all.
That we want to prosecute a case, take a fiat from the Attorney General. And what is a fiat? Authorization.
That's all.
1 page of paper. Finish. So what is all this noise about? So the impression is created that this is an attempt to subvert OSP. So how is this an attempt to subvert the OSP? Just take a fiat and come and prosecute your cases. Is that a problem? Look, when the OSP was insisting that Ken Ofori-Atta should be extradited, they went to the Attorney General. It was the Attorney General who made that request. Because under the laws of Ghana, the OSP could not make that request. Why can't they do the same when it comes to prosecuting other cases and so on? You're just wasting our time, wasting our years, making irrelevant noises and so on. In any case, there are those who have argued that the High Court has no jurisdiction to interpret the Constitution. The High Court has not interpreted the Constitution. You understand? Those who are being prosecuted by the OSP had very smart lawyers. The lawyers were exceedingly smart. So they did not ask the High Court to interpret the Constitution. What they did, according to those who know the law, me, I'm not a lawyer, comes under the A of co-warrant. What they did simply was to ask the OSP to show them the authority under which he was carrying on the prosecution. Simple. So said, OSP, you are prosecuting us. Show us your authority for prosecuting us. The OSP failed to show the authority for carrying on the prosecutions, and that led to the judgment of the High Court. Smart lawyers, that's all. Okay? So, the law is just they played smart. Okay? So this is where we are. In any case, this matter is coming before the Supreme Court. And I'll be surprised if the Supreme Court were to rule that the OSP can carry out prosecutions without the fiat of the Attorney General. How? The Act of Parliament, in terms of the hierarchy of laws, is an inferior law to the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any other law is inferior to the Constitution. So you could not have gone to Parliament and enacted a law which would, by effect, amend the Constitution. You couldn't have done that. Okay? So Parliament itself recognizes the fact that the power to prosecute is vested in the Attorney General. Okay? And if you look at the act that you guys passed, the act says that the OSP will prosecute or may prosecute some cases, but the Attorney General shall.
All cases.
Shall.
Obligatory.
Authorize the OSP to do that. How? What is the basis of that? What's the foundation of that? What's the legal foundation of that? So, look, and I said last Thursday that this is a classical demonstration of the effects of political opportunism. You know what is right. But for the sake of deceiving the public, for the sake of creating the impression that you are doing something, you guys conspired, both from the NDC and the NPP conspired and imposed this contraption on us, and look at what we are going through today. Let us be honest in our politics. Let's be honest. Let's discuss the issues passionately. Who appointed the special prosecutor? Who appointed? Was he appointed by the chairman of Butchers Association? He was appointed by the president, the same way the minister and attorney general, minister for justice and attorney general is appointed by the president. So what has changed? Nothing has changed.
Well, thank you so much to my panelists for giving us their bite on this subject matter. Let me read a few messages we're about to bid you farewell. OHEMAA Dr. Kisi, this is a sharp bullet coming at you. Right. He's sitting well to receive the bullet. He says he lost his seat because he was a bit confused. he has Ibrahim Jets. I mean, what has Ibrahim Jets got to do with the OSP? The OSP office was opposed by NDC in opposition, but NPP went on to approve with their numbers. Stephen.
It's not true. The NDC did not oppose the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecution. It's not true.
They didn't have the numbers. They didn't do it.
Even if they had the numbers, they didn't
need the numbers to oppose it.
Fighting against, the
right.
cases.
This also says, good morning, about the special prosecutor's case. May I know if the Attorney General, the special prosecutor, or a private individual who is the initiator of the court action? Well, the facts are on the internet. You can kindly make reference to that. Good morning, OHEMAA. Truth is that we all at the time were fed up with corruption, especially the ones in high places, quote and unquote, that we supported the creation of the OSP, closing our eyes to the collisions between the Constitution and the OSP Acts. I believe our problem is not really the office, but the person occupying it now. Let's maintain the office for the purposes of which it was created and get a new special prosecutor who will fight corruption on our behalf. Right, thank you for your message. Just 1 minute and time is up. This one's coming through also said, what has the topic got to do with the president riding his brother's jets? Because the president refused to let the public.
Jet matter.
Yes, I think the jet matter is going
another discussion.
Yeah, to rent a private jet for $18,000 per hour. All right, thank you so much for your messages, and thank you for being a part of the insightful conversations that we've had here on the show. I just want to say thank you to my panelists. Gentlemen, thank you for your candor and your insights. Mr. Philip Langdon, thank you so much. Mr. Michael Ni, your boy Anan, thank you. Honorable Dixon.
I prefer to be just doctor.
Doctor, all right.
Because I'm not in government. That's the appropriate
So
thing.
when you come in government,
I think it's a temporary thing.
All
so
right.
People are abusing the word honorable too.
The honorable is not supposed to be for the name, your name. The
so
honorable is
for the position
for
you
the position,
right.
the office.
So now I'm an ordinary
Yes.
citizen.
So Dr. Adumaku Kissing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank
That one nobody can take.
Straight back. And to Comrade Kwesi Pratt, senior, are we taking the junior out? Senior? Okay.
Yeah, now he should be senior.
Yes.
He qualifies for senior.
All right. I'm AGYEKUM and I sat in for Senna. This has been Alhaji&Alhaji. Same time next week. See you.
Oh, we'll make it junior senior.
He has labored, he has